Yeah, man, I have my marathon in 2 days.
Dude. And you just got sick.
I know.
Why does it always happen like that?
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, choose your hard, but it's like even the hard you choose, like things will still happen, and it's, you know, it's inevitable, but you know, adversity does always force growth. So it's like, bring it on.
Yeah. Just a little bit of extra difficulty for your, is this your first marathon?
It's my first marathon, man. First marathon. It's been a year plus in the making. I was supposed to run the Austin in February at the beginning of the year. And I just kept going kind of like from injury to injury. And now I'm finally healthy and I can send one.
Where's your head at with it all? How are you feeling?
Dude, I'm feeling good. It's really, it's interesting because I'm trying to go sub 3. So I'm trying to qualify for Boston. And that's
no small feat.
Dude, no small feat. It's a huge goal. And it's to the point where I feel confident in it.
Yep.
And achieving that. And I know that the bricks are stacked, you know, the work has been put in. So I think it's just going to be a mental battle, just like all of my workouts. Like as we've been progressing through the weeks, the workouts on paper almost look impossible. I'm like, how am I going to do a half marathon at, you know, at those paces? And then you do it and it builds this massive confidence in yourself. And so it just shows you like everything is kind of mental, you know, to an extent. So
yeah, totally. Where were you at a year ago when you first signed up for it? Because it seems like just having observed your content from afar and like loving it, Modern Primal really took off about a year ago, right?
Dude, it's honestly not really like, so it's been a little bit less than that, less than a year.
Damn.
So I was looking at it the other day, right? My very first reel that I posted was in February of 2022.
Damn.
So, and at that time, I wasn't the Modern Primal. The Modern Primal wasn't born until September or either like August or September of 2022. So
we're still under a year.
Dude, we're under a year.
Let's go.
Yeah. And it was, yeah, dude, it's the growth has been substantial within this past year. I mean, it's basically, my whole life has changed. The Modern Primal was just a, you know, twinkle in my eye a year ago. So,
and so, yeah, you were working a job at that point too, and now you're full-time on the content creation side of things?
Yes. So I'm a full-time coach, content creator. That's where I'm making my money right now. I left my full-time job in November of 21. So the day I closed on my house, I used my VA loan to buy a house. And the day I closed, I didn't really have any clients. I wasn't making much money, but I knew I had to take a leap of faith and get uncomfortable to just overcome this, not necessarily like a fear, but like almost like a knowing of that I was made for more, you know, than what I was doing. And yeah, so I served in the military for 6 years, got out. I was working a night shift job here in North Austin, 12-hour night shifts. And
dude,
that was until November of this past year. And it was absolutely miserable. It was brutal. During that time, I was cultivating my personal brand on my 2-3 off days of the week, you know, and taking control of my health and fitness, helping others along the way, just kind of like stepping into this space. And Austin's so cool because I was surrounded by so many others doing that. And so it basically made me realize that it was possible because, you know, looking from afar, if you're not directly around, you know, people who are doing what you want to do, it's, you know, you can use any excuse in the world. It's good to see it up close. And that's what I did and just really stepped into it.
What inspired you to start putting stuff out there to begin with? Because I imagine for yourself and a lot of other people, it's always like a little bit nerve-wracking, like putting that first reel out there. But once you do and you start figuring it out, it all like comes together.
Absolutely. I think that this question has a few different answers as far as the reason I got started. Basically, I think the real reason I got started was because I was so miserable in where I was in life and
just job, relationships,
like just everything. I didn't like who I was as a person. I wasn't bringing anything to the table. I was questioning like, why are people friends with me even? You know, I lived a life to really just get like external validation. Like that's all I cared about was just, you know, just hearing it from others and just, you know, being something that I was not to please others, whether it be a social gathering, whether it be a relationship, whether it be just everything. And once you start doing that, you go down a path that's not your own, and you start believing lies, and lies that you tell yourself, which are the most dangerous ones. And so I really just I guess I somewhat dropped my victim mentality and started taking responsibility. I was like, yo, if anything's going to change, then I have to be the one to do it. It has to come from within.
I've heard you talk about this a lot, but the concept of deep work or the inner work has come up a lot in your content and in the podcast that you did with our mutual friend, Matt Worthington of Riser Network. Love that guy.
Yeah.
But the deep work conversation, I feel like it's a buzzword that gets thrown out there a lot. And then it's like, what does that actually mean, doing the deep work? And like, what do people need to expect when they're going in to that place of doing the deep work? Because it's not something, from my perspective, the deep work isn't something that you can just like walk through the door. You need to walk through the door and stay in the room for a long time. You can't just like knock on the door and then walk away. Like you need to like marinate in the deep work. It's not something that you can just like transiently go through and think that, oh yeah, I've done the deep work. Like, I've changed. I am now a changed man. Is there an experience from your past that makes you like realize that it's more about the journey than like just the final destination? Because I feel like it is super cliche. Like, people put in all this work and then they get to the final destination and it's still like, they don't have that fulfillment. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the reason that I started taking radical action on my personal self-work is because I just lived as a victim my entire life. My siblings and I basically went through hell growing up. It started, as a kid, as a teenager. We went through so much together. And I think that hard is relative, I think that somebody losing a loved one could be the same as somebody making a fool of themselves, like that's what I'm saying. Like everything is relative. So I'm not saying that my heart is worse than anybody else's, but from my perspective, I mean, we definitely went through hell. My parents divorced when I was a junior in high school, and they, were just fighting their own demons, because just because people have kids doesn't mean that they just automatically know how to be parents. And that's something I've had to learn. You can hold as much resentment as you want, but at the end of the day, I think everybody is just doing the best that they can in their own reality. And so obviously at the time I didn't see it that way. I was living as a victim. So I basically watched my parents go through hell. I had to step up because I'm the eldest of three. So I have a younger brother and a younger sister. And I mean, straight up, there were times where I would get home from football games and my mother would be seizing on the couch, foaming at the mouth. My younger brother, like standing there crying, not knowing what to do. And just going through stuff like that when you have no idea, like, what is even going on in the first place, because you're so young, I didn't have that many experiences yet, so I had no idea what to make of it. And just watching the people you love most, the people that you look up to, the people that have told you what to do your entire life, they're right. Like your parents is like, totally. When you're a kid, all you know is what your parents tell you and what you see them do. And so it was so hard seeing that. And it was so hard having to step up and do that as a 16, 17-year-old. And I remember there was one time my siblings and I were living with my mom at the time, and we were getting evicted from a house. This was my senior year of high school. And my mom was so just in a bad way that she just couldn't do anything about it. She just was laying in bed, helpless, in her own way. She had demons that she was obviously dealing with. And so after school, I had to muster up the courage to ask my baseball coach if I could ask our team to come help me move all of our stuff, because we had no money to hire anybody. I had to borrow my mom's car. I had to go borrow my grandpa's trailer, who lived close by. And it was just the most embarrassing thing ever at that age, right? Because the way that people perceive you is everything at that age, because everyone just wants to be heard. Everyone is seeking that external validation. And so I just had to get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. like having the water shut off, like just going from having really great Christmases to really shitty Christmases, and just wondering like, at that age, you're wondering like what you're doing wrong. You're wondering like, and it's hard not to be the victim. And so I really just adopted this victim mentality that I was just not special and that the world was just not fair. That's all I said. It's not fair. The world's not fair. I would scoff at the idea of, others doing great things because it intimidated me. And when you just put yourself in that box and start to identify as the victim, it's a disease. It's a disease. And so, yeah, that's kind of like where it started.
Damn. Dude, that's a heavy story. My parents got divorced when I was a freshman in college too. So kind of like, early on I was a little bit more mature, but can relate to some of that stuff. I'm wondering, did you realize that you were stepping into that role of kind of like leader of the house, or like someone who is taking like courageous steps when you were doing things like asking your baseball team to come move your house? Cause like, you're almost like riddled with so much, I would imagine like embarrassment and like fear that it's like, you're like, I can't even imagine what you were feeling at that time.
Yeah, man, I was just so embarrassed. And at the time I wasn't doing it to like, I was just doing it because I had to. It's just like you either sink or you swim. Like your back is against, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Am I going to let my brother just like sit there and cry with nobody taking care of him? No, I have to go like move him and my sister into my grandparents' house, like because we don't have anybody to take care of us at this point. We're on our own. My dad is off like doing his own thing, fighting his own demons. I'm not going to get into details about it, but dude, we went through hell. And so basically then the story goes, I graduate high school and I have no money. I'm like, all my friends are going off to college. That was not a reality for me. So I joined the Navy. That was literally, I thought it was the only thing I could do. I would cry about it because I didn't want to so bad. I was like, oh, what if I die? I didn't join the Navy out of patriotism. I joined the Navy because I didn't think I had any other opportunities. And it turned out to be one of the best things I ever did.
What about it kind of makes you say that?
The Navy, dude, it's because it carried forth that just uncomfortable like lifestyle. Like I went from being super uncomfortable at home without like having a choice to, because when you're a kid, you don't have a choice. It's just whatever happened. Like, unfortunately, you don't have a choice. Yeah. And so I finally had a choice, I guess, to an extent. And so the Navy was just, it was also uncomfortable. And in
what sense?
It was, dude, we were just out to sea all the freaking time. So I was on a ship and it was like 2 weeks out to sea, 3 weeks on land, 2 weeks out to sea, 3 weeks on land. And then 7-month deployment, and then back for a few months, and then like the same thing over and over again. It's really like go. And even when you're like in port, it's like every 3 days you got to stay on the ship and stand duty. Like it's just more uncomfortability for sure. And especially doing something that you don't necessarily want to do. Right. So yeah, I struggled with it early on. Looking back, I think of all these ways that I could have been better. At that time, I was still a victim, so I was like, oh, wow, I just have a shitty chief, or I just have a shitty chain of command, or I just have a shitty job. Dang, I wish I would have picked a better job. And it's like, right. So
were there other guys around you who you saw doing things differently, or maybe part of the team dynamic that sparked some inspiration in you to start like viewing things differently? Or was it kind of just like, oh, this sucks?
Dude, yeah. It's like the military, if you know, it's really hard to explain, but like the mindset of the military is that like E5 and below, like everybody is just like in a frat house. And so, there's levels to it, but I was too asleep to even think about stuff like that back then. I really didn't start taking my journey of consciousness and like becoming aware until I got out, to tell you the truth. Really? So, yeah, but dude, I made some amazing friendships along the way. I did go through a lot of growth in the military. I I wanted to go special warfare about halfway through my service. And so I trained really hard for that. That's kind of where my athletic journey like really sparked outside of like being a high school athlete, which I never took high school sports seriously. And so on deployment, we were just rolling through the Red Sea, and I was doing laps and laps and laps on our flight deck, just in the heat, like in this biblical, see, it was actually pretty cool.
That's sweet.
It was profound. And I trained really hard. I did a Murph every weekend, and I had a few buddies who were trying to do the same thing. And I got back and I got injured. And so adversity comes knocking on the door again. I suffered a labral tear in my hip. Dang. And a bone spur on the top of my femur. So basically it just ripped through the soft tissue inside of my hip joint. Dang. And I victim mentality again, an injury. What a great way to become another victim. And so I was on crutches for over 6 months, which is crazy. That's absurd. Dang. I think I was on crutches probably longer than I even needed to be.
So you didn't get surgery for it or anything?
No. The surgery was super difficult. They said that there was a 30% success rate if we did it. And so it was an elective surgery and I elected against it. Bro, it's oh my gosh. We would have to do 5 more podcasts to talk about the healthcare system and dude, especially in the military, it's whack.
Really?
Yeah. No offense to anybody in it. We're all just doing our best. And I think everybody in that has good intent, but the system is broken.
Yeah. One of my favorite podcasts that we've done is with a guy, Philip Meese, who is I don't want to get his role wrong, but he was either a combat medic.
Oh, nice.
Overseas. And he always talks about how bad the food is in the military. And he actually,
it's criminal. It's poison.
He's the founder of the Carnivore Bar, which is a meat-based MRE. So it's a meal replacement. And it's 400 calories, mostly fat and protein. Yeah. It's unbelievable. So
that is awesome.
Yeah. But his insights into just how bad the food is overseas was crazy.
Bro, you would think it's so backwards, man. It's literally poison. It's really poison. We got fed poison out of cans, just filled with oils and BS and fake stuff. And bro, how can you expect anybody to operate? So I look back and view that as another form of adversity that I didn't even know I was being subject to because I thought that was the norm. I was a Pop-Tart baby. My whole life I grew up, I didn't know anything about nutrition. But now looking back, I'm oh my goodness, I cannot believe the stuff I used to eat. I can't believe the stuff that they used to feed us.
Right.
And it's you don't get an option. It's you want slop, or undercooked chicken, or
right.
And there's levels to it. I don't want to hate on the Navy cooks too bad, but
yeah, they're just doing what they're supposed to do.
They're just following orders.
Yeah, totally. So when did your nutritional journey start?
Yeah, so my nutritional journey started, and this ties into the story, through the adversity in the military. So basically, I got out of the military, and that's literally when it started because I had to move back or I had to get out, I decided to move back to Austin. That's where I'm from originally. And I wanted to identify as a new person. I went through something snapped, bro. And at the time, I had a girlfriend that cheated on me. I'm in a happy relationship.
You're in San Diego at the time?
Yeah, in San Diego. And dude, that made me even more of a victim. I was oh, what'd I do wrong? All this stuff. And it's I'm not justifying cheating, but I just knew that something wasn't adding up. I wasn't the person that I wanted to be. I wasn't treating others how I should have been. It's almost like the collective consciousness just waking up, bro. And it's others waking me up. And I started to listen to awesome people like Paul Saladino, mixed with a little bit of Nick Bare. And I just became this ultimate self-development machine. And I took it really seriously. So I got addicted to self-development. I changed my diet drastically and I got really shredded. And I was feeling amazing. And it was just eating, animal proteins pretty much. And I would do yogurt and berries and fruit and dude, really strict, animal based. And I just did it super strict. And now, it's to the point where my views are a little bit changed on that subject. I still consider myself animal based, but I'm not as radical as I used to be.
Just because you have it on autopilot more or less, where it's you have so much control over
bro, I mean,
inputs?
That's like it's a whole nother topic. I think that at the end of the day, as long as you're prioritizing whole foods and like cutting out the processed stuff, like we can get along, you know, like cut out like I have clients that are vegans, you know, and I can't just be like, no, you must like, cause that's just my reality. That's what I think is right. And I can't force that on others. But we can agree that like we want to eat whole foods, we want to cut out seed oils, and we want to prioritize protein. It just so happens that animal-based proteins happen to be the most nutrient dense and like the most efficient way, in my opinion. But it's like, as long as we're at least eating whole foods, right? Like, let's try to cut out as much division as possible. We're already divided enough. It's almost like carnivores and vegans are it's like Republicans and Democrats, bro. Yeah. It's like, you know, whole foods.
Yeah. We are the Meat Mafia podcast, but we do try to be pragmatic. Like, you do have to meet people where they're at. And a lot of times, like, people are just in a different place, or they have different reasons for what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Like you said, animal-based diet is
it's superior in my opinion, but
what we believe to be true. But you got to do what works best for you.
Yeah, and there's levels to it. Like I actually interviewed Paul Saladino the other day on IG Live, and I kind of went deep with him on that question. And I love it. He was like, he basically, you know, he has to, of course he has to. I mean, and I respect that. That's exactly what I expected. But he was like, he thinks that there's too many issues with whole foods, because then you'll go down other routes that aren't as, you know, sustainable or just as efficient as eating meat. So, but yeah, man, I think we were talking about self-development and kind of the story from the military to civilian life.
How, so when you got your nutrition in order, it always amazes me how many things are downstream of just like changing your diet and getting in really good shape. Like, what sort of things in your life did you see start changing once you kind of really got that nutrition and lifestyle in order?
Everything. Yeah. Everything. It's like the cloud was lifted. Like, dude. Yes. No, seriously. It's everything. It's everything, because that's how we think. Like, totally. It's all connected, bro. Like, we have to eat good foods that we can think clearly off of and that are clean fuel for us to run off of. And then we have to move our bodies, and we have to do, you know, it ties in. It's deeper than food, bro. It's like, get outside, move your body, connect with good humans, like exude positivity, like learn how to use your words as spells and like manifest. Like, but I believe that the foundation of that is having a healthy body and a healthy mind, right? And I don't think, again, I asked Paul this the other day, and I agree with him. I don't think that one can exist without the other. I don't believe you if you're saying that, you know, that one can. And it's like, I'm not saying that you can't be really, really optimized, like if you're not in control of your health, but there's just no way that that's not the best version of somebody, the highest version of somebody.
Yeah, people talk about mind-body connection all the time, and I'm just like, I get what they're saying. Mind-body connection is this powerful thing where you can get into your body and start to feel it in a different way, but your mind is your body is your mind. Like, your neurological system runs through, you know, every cell. Exactly,
bro. Exactly. So it's like, how it's like trying to put something in your car that's just not supposed to go in there. Like, how could you do that knowingly? It's like, now that you're aware, it's kind of your duty.
Yeah. So how do you operate now? Like, what's the standard kind of operating procedure for you in terms of diet? Even leading into this marathon for you, is it more strict, less strict with how you're
it's a little bit less strict. So typically, if I'm not running, you know, 40, 50, 60 miles a week, then I think that it would be very sustainable to kind of be more along the lines of animal-based. Yeah. But during this training, and it was rough at first, because I put myself in a box. Yeah. You know, I put myself in a box, and everything is relative.
Like, you were just
like I didn't want to step out of like animal-based or even just eating like meat and fruit and stuff, because like I had this persona on social media. Like, that's kind of like part of my brand and stuff. Right. And it's like, now I could care less, because I've come to a point where I just realized that like I just don't care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things in the Matt Worthington podcast that I wanted to touch on with you, and it comes across in your content where you're very educational on things beyond nutrition, but it's really like, you know, this overcoming limiting beliefs and kind of like how you view yourself as a mentor to younger guys. and it came up in Matt's podcast where you're a older brother as well. I'm an older brother as well. So it's a special role, I know. And it sounded like you have a similar feeling where you take a lot of pride in it. And I'm wondering, do you view your content that you put out there kind of through this lens of like teaching that person who's just like 5 years younger than you, the little brother who's out there just looking for something to attach themselves to?
Dude, that's a great question. I think for me, I want to be that person. I don't think that I have been bringing, the version of myself to be that person, up until this point. Creating content's really new for me. So something that I'm really, really, really trying to step into more is like more value-based content, more educational content, more content that people can relate to, more content of me sharing my story. I think that's the most powerful thing I can do is just share my story, because then others can just see that it's like, oh, like he's just a normal guy too, or people can overcome like what I've been through. And so that is my goal. That's my goal, man. It's one of them, obviously, but that's something I'm working on, and that's who I want to be.
I see that for you. And I know we talked about last time we were hanging out, you doing a podcast. What sort of things would you talk about on your podcast if you were to launch one?
Yeah.
And have you given it more thought?
Dude, I have. It's definitely coming soon.
I love it.
I would just talk about, similar things that you guys talk about, as well as the modern primal way, bro. The modern primal message. That's something that we haven't touched on yet, but the modern primal, it means something, it's not just a cool name. I'm just kidding. Or a lame name, whatever you think. But the modern primal is like, society is just backwards, bro. We've strayed so far from the truth and like what we should be doing. And it's like, we're modern. We got here for a reason. We're very intelligent creatures, but we have to lean more into the things that got us here in the first place. Yeah. And that's like that modern clashing with the primal. And, that's basically our mission. It's like, we can still enjoy awesome things like toothpaste and, whatever it is, but it's like, there's better ways than what we're doing. We can still have awesome snacks, but there's better alternatives. We can still have awesome clothes even, but there's better alternatives.
Yeah. And dude, even social media, I used to have like this very strange view on social media where I was like, this is so negative. I can't stand social media, and just kind of reframing it as something that it's just a tool. Like it's only negative if I let it be negative. Exactly. And if I'm out there using it for things like getting information from Joe Phair, who puts out amazing content, it's like, okay, I'm getting good content in, and it's like motivating, it's giving me good information to go live a better life, then is social media all that bad? It's really just what you do with it.
Yeah, perspective is everything. Perspective is everything. Whatever you believe it is what it's going to be. Or whatever you choose to make it is what it's going to be. Like you said, you can filter it out. You can use it as a tool. You can use it for good, but you can also use it, for bad, just like everything else. Social media has been amazing for me. I found it to be an amazing outlet to just reach other people, inspire, educate, motivate, connect. So I think social media is awesome, but I think there's a fine line, right? So yeah, I think that it's an awesome tool.
Yeah. Do you ever wonder what your audience thinks of you? Do you ever wonder what they know and don't know about you?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like I kind of hit on earlier, I don't think I haven't shared too much of my story on social media. I really haven't. Yeah. I've barely even showed pictures of what I used to look like before, taking radical action. But something that I have really, really honed in on is not seeking external validation. I'm really, really, really just trying to find it from within. I believe that you shouldn't live your life or base any decisions based off of anything external, really. And I don't want to speak in absolutes, because obviously we have things like families and friends that we want to accommodate with our decisions.
Right.
But the only person that you should really be living for is yourself. And those close to you, obviously, within reason. We got to have boundaries with that as well.
Is there anything that you've done in order to harden that mindset, whether it's meditation or journaling. There's just a lot of things that I think when you're going through this transformation process that you need to like become acutely aware of the thoughts that you're having and make sure you understand how they're affecting your actions.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I do things like, sauna, cold plunging every single day. And this marathon prep that I just went through is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It was absolutely brutal. I didn't like it a lot of the time, but I did know that by doing so, I was just forcing massive growth because I was just overcoming that hard shit that you just don't want to do. It could be an uncomfortable thought even. You have to force yourself to have uncomfortable thoughts. Humans, we're creatures of habit. Our brain is always going to go with the grain. It's always going to take that path of least resistance. And you have to wake up and choose if you're going to, do otherwise. And so, just doing things to overcome hard shit is literally like such a life hack. And I do it every single day.
Is there the modern Primal philosophy? Where do you stand on community and just how important that is? Because personally, I feel like it's like the lost art of just being super healthy. Just be around healthy people, be around people who make you happy. Absolutely. Your life will be you'll transmute yourself into just being a better person.
Bro, it's absurd how much of an effect who you hang around with like has on you. I believe that humans are a product of two things, their experiences and their environment. And your experiences, unfortunately, you can't really change at this point. Like obviously, like I'm not saying you can't change who you are, but it's already happened, right? So what can you change? Your environment. And what's like the biggest part of your environment is like who you surround yourself with, what the day-to-day, who is pushing you to be better or who is holding you back. And so you have to choose, that good environment, whatever that is to you. But I've found, hanging around like-minded people and people that are doing what I want to do or people that are better than me in a lot of areas, people that I admire. I mean, it's like the number one thing that I could recommend to anybody. If you're stuck in life, if you're wondering like why shit isn't happening, then look who you're hanging around. And dude, no hate to anybody that I maybe used to hang around or like all my other friends, bro. Like it's all love, yo, but there's levels to it,
Definitely. How do you go about, so you sign up for this marathon, how do you go about approaching a new challenge that's going to push you like in this way? Are you the type of person who's going to go sign up for the race and then get a coach and map it all out? Or do you kind of just like flow with it for a little bit, like figure out the plan as you go?
I think a little bit of both. So like for the marathon, hiring a coach was the best thing that I could have ever done. And I'm a coach myself. So I believe in the power of coaching. I know the power of coaching. I've spent money on coaches. It ties into the community thing. Like if you want to do something, go find somebody else that's doing it or that's done it before and ask them how to do it. And it usually requires some sort of payment and that's okay. And what was the second question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just asking like, how do you approach these challenges that are pushing you out of your comfort zone?
That's right.
Like for me, I always kind of like, I think I used to always lead with a little bit of like an egotistical approach where it's like, I'm just going to figure this out and see where it lands. And now as I've evolved through my walk through life, it's much more of the get a coach, fast track yourself. Don't waste time, learn from the pros.
I think it's a little bit of both, bro. It has to be like coaches are important, like I was saying, and this is going to tie into something that I'm super passionate about that I've been thinking about a lot recently. I think it's also important to go, figure shit out. And it's also important to believe that you can, right? Yeah. You mentioned being an egotist. I believe that society has drawn this level of ego kind of like right here, right? There's like confidence, right? And then once you hit this certain point, like you hit ego. But I believe in all reality, the line is up here. And that the reason that society has drawn the line here is because people are intimidated by people that do great things. And there's levels to it, right? Like, I'm not saying that certain people aren't egotists, but in order for you to like reach that high level of confidence that is usually untouched because people are scared to reach it, you're holding out, you're not, because your most confident self is your highest self, right? Yes. You have to be confident in order to do anything in this world. So, overcoming challenges and figuring shit out, it definitely comes with confidence. And And yeah, don't be afraid to push that level.
I freaking love that take. Because, yeah, I mean, ego often gets a bad rap. But at the end of the day, part of us. It's like, who are you? Like, do you know, ego is I in Latin. Like, do you know who you are?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that does come just through self-experimentation. Like, are you the type of person who needs a recipe for everything they cook, or will you just be like, Bro, try absolutely. One might suck, but try two is going to be pretty good.
Dude, for real. I agree, man. I'm glad that you can appreciate that in the kitchen, by the way, because huge cook over here. I love to cook.
Dude, what do you, when did that start? Just through the whole Paul Saladino, Nick Bare face?
No. I've actually always loved to cook, surprisingly. Even just kind of growing up, even when we were kind of going through the shit, I would always just love to cook, whether it be for my mother or like for my family or just for myself. It's always something that I've been able to be present with and just kind of do. And over time, I've found that that's a huge superpower because you have to be cooking or have somebody else cooking it for you if you want to be eating the good stuff, right? Like we've realized that eating out is just basically self-harm at this point, unless you're being very, very, very strict.
Yeah. Do you eat out ever?
I do, yeah. Luckily, we live in Austin, so I get to eat at awesome places like Daidui, The Well, Picnic, and I will eat at other places sometimes too. Truthfully, I'll not often because I know, like I said earlier, like once you're aware, it's kind of like your duty.
Yeah,
it's almost like when do you want to celebrate? Maybe.
Yeah,
and I think society celebrates a little too often. I think there's literally a holiday on every single day of the calendar.
Literally every week, it's like Friday, celebrate.
Yeah,
like, what?
Yeah, you could.
You guys are celebrating again?
Yeah, exactly. But dude, not often. Maybe like once a month, and some months, maybe more or maybe less. So
yeah. I eat out. I mean, depending on the month, a handful of times a week, but usually just like cooking most of my meals. I think if you're trying to be as healthy as possible, you should be cooking 90% of your meals. Like, I mean, if not 100.
As much as possible, just because you have no idea what's going on in that kitchen. And honestly, it's like a lot of these kitchens are kind of dirty. Like, just be really selective about it, the food is important. It really, it directly translates into who you are, who you're going to be tomorrow and the next day. And it's like, you want to always be showing up as your best self. I almost can't jeopardize not being able to show up as my best self that next day because I'll miss out on an opportunity, or I have to be what I know I'm capable of.
Totally. Is there a meal that you go to on a regular basis, just like consistently? Like, I know I've got mine, which is just like,
what is it?
My go-to for just like simple, convenient food is ground beef with siete taco seasoning. Throw some cheese on there, maybe some onions, some guac, done.
That's amazing.
Taco salad.
I eat that all the time. I will say though, I think my favorite food of all time is a hot cup of bone broth with some butter and high quality salt and maybe like a little like organic cayenne or whatever flavor profile goes with like whatever flavor of bone broth you're having. But dude, it's so healing. It's so delicious. I use it in lieu of my morning cup of coffee a lot of mornings. Bone broth is powerful,
dude. It's probably, and I was just thinking here as you were saying that, like when I'm at my best, I drink bone broth in the morning with some butter. Literally. And it's like, dude, okay, if you want to be at your best, you can program yourself to be at your best every day just by having bone broth at the beginning of the day.
We get to choose. That's the thing, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And a lot of people are timid on taking investments into their health. And I am such a huge believer that an investment into your health should never be in vain.
Oh yeah.
We talk about this last year for me and how I experienced just tremendous growth. I spent a lot of money too, investing in my health. But now this year it's like, it's been awesome for me. And it's because, exactly. It all comes back. It's reciprocated if you put it in the right places. It's like saying like vote with your dollars. It's like an energy exchange.
Yeah. So the bone broth, what about bone broth was like key for you? Because I love it because it's hydrating. It has some salt to it. Mm-hmm. There's protein in it.
Yeah.
And like you basically you feel full, but you don't feel full.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about eating high quality proteins and fats is that that's exactly what it'll do to you.
Right.
It keeps you full, it keeps you energized. And whenever, obviously I'm not going to speak in absolutes, but whenever you eat carbs in the morning or especially the wrong type of carbs, like it's gonna make you feel lethargic a lot of times. And I think drinking bone broth, you're getting that protein, you're getting that energizing fat, not to mention all of that sodium. So you're getting electrolytes, and it's warm, so it gets that oral asphyxiation that coffee gives you, and it has gut healing benefits as well. Like it's literally just a superfood. I love bone broth. It's amazing.
It definitely is. I saw someone tweeting about like, it was, I think the guy's name is Simon Hill. He's a vegan, and he has a really good, he has a very popular podcast.
Oh, I think I heard him the other day on a podcast. Actually.
Yeah. He's persuading. He's persuading for sure. He's got like an Australian accent. He's like,
sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds good. But he was like, is there any proof that bone broth is actually nutritious and good? And I was like, and he phrased it differently. But yeah, he was basically looking for studies around bone broth. And I'm like, dude, have you ever had bone broth?
Well, dude, that ties into like placebo. Yeah. And what is placebo, right? Belief. And belief is everything. So if there is a freaking magic pill that doesn't have anything in it that'll make me, feel like I have taken the limitless pill or whatever might have you, hell yes, I'm going to take it 10 out of 10 times. Like placebo, AKA belief, is everything. So if I like bone broth and I like the way it makes me feel and I believe it's going to make me feel better, then it will.
Yeah. Dude, 100%. Look good, feel good. Like,
exactly.
Like it's all in that, the moxie and just like the belief that, these certain things give us. I'm curious about, outside of running, your training program. Like, you strike me as a guy who's kind of like this hybrid, like almost like Nick Bare type.
Wow.
What sort of,
appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if you're thinking you're, I certainly see that as like your type of content where you're a very close to elite runner, if not, in a few days. We'll see.
Dude, we'll see, man. Yeah.
And then, a bigger guy. You don't see too many guys who are, what are you, like 230?
I'm 220 right now.
Damn, bro.
But yeah, I think my comfortable weight is actually like 215. But whenever you're doing endurance running, like you want to, you don't want to be completely shredded to the bone because that's just not optimal. But yeah, my training routine it's pretty hybrid, I guess. If I were to say, I think hybrid is also relative. I think somebody that basically any few types of fitness put together, I would consider that hybrid. So I think there's many different types, but during the marathon training, it had to switch up a lot. I had to learn that the hard way, and that's why I was getting injured. I'm sorry, because I was overtraining, and I just wasn't ready to let go of all that other type of lifting that I was doing. So I like unconventional training. I love kettlebell training. I love mace training. And a lot of that just requires a lot of energy, not necessarily mace training, I guess, the flow type stuff, but kettlebell training requires so much out of your glutes and your hamstrings. And so I would go rip kettlebell sessions and just almost every single morning, and then go rip a run or vice versa. And my body was becoming so fatigued. And so I had this really nagging hamstring injury that took me out of 2 races. And it was because I was just being dumb with the training, or I just wasn't educated. Yeah. And so my coach luckily helped me figure that out. And I've been able to take that mentality with my own clients, but it's always easier to give advice than take it yourself. But yeah, so typically I love to just incorporate, strength training, aesthetic training, and unconventional training, as well as cardio, just in my own little way. Like I don't really necessarily follow a overall schedule. Like I have coaches in kind of each aspect, and I'll just kind of throw it in, like almost in the kitchen, like a chef, like a little bit of salt here.
You have a framework.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do it intuitively. And I don't think that's the best way for achieving goals. I think if you have a goal, you need to dial in on that goal and don't dilute your training necessarily. Like there's levels to it. You can have some stuff here and have some stuff there, but like do what's going to help you reach that goal. Right. But in terms of just longevity and being optimal, and if you just want to be healthy, then I think any fitness is pretty good, as long as you're kind of just sprinkling a little bit of everything and what works for you.
Yeah. Feeling good is feel. Like you need to, like if you wake up one morning, you don't have it fully. This is something I've been trying to tap into more recently, where it's like, have like a minimum viable dose of a workout. Do that. So for me, dude, it's like 15 minutes on the treadmill, 15 minutes on the treadmill, 15-degree incline, 3 miles per hour. Super, like, I mean, for most people, that's like not a big workout. But like for me, it's like I orient myself with my body. I figure out what I want to do that day. Like, do I have 100% today, or am I at like 60? Am I at less than 60? Do I need to just like stretch and get out of here?
Yeah.
And so I think there's like a lot of value in just kind of being honest with not always needing to be David Goggins and just like burn yourself to the ground, because that's not really a healthy approach for everyone.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not, man. I mean, hard is so relative, and we don't want to be doing things that we don't like all the time, right? Like, we get to choose strategically which hard is going to help me, like, become this better version of myself, essentially. And we're going to have to learn and go through that. And it's like, you might have to do a few hard things, and then you're like, wow, I'm never doing that again, because that was too hard, and my relationship suffered, and my business suffered. And it's like, but how are you going to know the burner is hot unless you touch it, right?
Totally.
So yeah, man. Choose your hard. We get to choose. We get to wake up and choose everything.
So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but do you see more races for you in the future after this marathon? Is there other things that you're curious about with the performance or endurance side of things?
Yeah, man. Yeah. This is definitely not going to be my last event, right? Ideally, I would love to hit my goal of a sub 3 hour marathon in 2 days.
What are we thinking for time? Let's.
I think it's going to be right under 2:59. I think 2:58 something, bro. Like, I really, really feel confident in this.
You got it.
So ideally, I'm going to hit my goal, qualify for Boston, hopefully, and then go run Boston next year. And really just take some time, and for fun, right? I don't want to go crush Boston. I mean, right now, who knows? Like 12 weeks out, I might be like, F it, we're going in.
All in.
Yeah. But I have realized that I've been stretching myself very thin with this training, bro. Like, I need to show myself some grace and be kind to myself and nourish other parts of my life. Like, it's bigger than fitness, and it's bigger than fitness. Fitness is not everything. It's a very powerful tool, but it's really not everything. And there's more to life. It's part of, who I am, for sure. So no, it's not going to be my last event, but I'm just going to kind of play it by ear, just like the gym, man. Right. Yeah. Like, use my intuition. And I mean, I'm running a Spartan race 2 weeks after in the Bahamas, which is going to be dope.
That'll be sick.
Yeah. But after that.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I love what you just said. It was a very mature response, and I think one that gets lost in the social media land, which is just like, hey, fitness isn't the end all be all. It's very important to living a good life, but once you kind of have that figured out, fill the other cups too. Don't just drain yourself through being a fitness guy 100% of the time.
100%, man. There's more to Joe Phair than like just, flexing at the camera and posting my runs. Honestly, bro, like, I want to start sharing more of my story. I want to start stepping into some other areas of my life. My supplement company that I'm starting with our mutual friends, Braxton, Zach Manley, I want to start pouring more energy into that. I think Modern Primal Provisions is going to help a lot of people.
100%.
We have big visions for that. And my other businesses that I'm working on, and my relationship with my girlfriend, my relationship with my friends, and my relationship with myself, bro. Like, you can only do so much work in a day. And when you're working on all these goals, like, you got to take a step. And it's like how we were talking about earlier with the self-work. It's like, it's never done. And if you neglect it, like, it's either up or down. Like, it doesn't stay stagnant, right? Like, we're either
100%.
getting better or we're decaying.
Yeah.
So I need to work on myself more. And it's not because there's anything massively wrong or that there's anything really, it's always a work in progress, but it's because I know that it's just like your fitness. You got to do maintenance. You got to keep up to date.
Totally.
So going to enter a season where I prioritize that a lot more.
I love that. And also, one more reason why I'm going to continue to push you to do a podcast, because I think all of that will come together as you start putting more of that longer form content out there.
Dude, I cannot wait to start a podcast. So, like, after seeing y'all set up too, like, this is awesome motivation, inspiration. Y'all are doing amazing things here. And dude, it's like, this is a great way to educate, motivate, and inspire others, through conversation.
Dude, and so many people come across your content, see a 90-second clip, are inspired, love it, and they follow, and then, they see your stuff pop up. But having them able to just listen to you talk about your actual story and get to know you better, then they appreciate, okay, like Joe's out here promoting this product. It must be good because like he's truly genuine and cares about this whole movement. And so I think like that stuff's really important. I feel like that's kind of where content is moving. It's like you need to be authentic and genuine in order for people to actually care about what you're saying.
Absolutely. And you need to be authentic and genuine for you to be in order for you to have a sustainable career.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, it's gonna come out sometime. Like you're gonna buckle and break whenever it's just too much to hold, because being something other than yourself is not sustainable. And why would you want to be anything other than yourself, right? Like, and if you do, then like, you know, go be whatever you want to be, but like make sure it's yourself, I guess, you know.
Totally. Well, dude, I love your message. I truly appreciate you coming on the show and sharing a little bit more with our audience, and hopefully your audience tunes into this one, because this was awesome and just tons of valuable information and nuggets in here. So thank you, Modern Primal, Joe Phair, the legend. Any final words for the Meat Mafia audience?
Dude, I'm so appreciative to be here, Harry. Thank you so much for having me on. I would like to say that we made a special Meat Mafia code for Modern Primal Provisions for our chisel gum, our mastic gum. So if you use code Meat Mafia, you can get 10% off on all natural face enhancing chewing gum. I think that this audience would probably like it a lot. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me on, man. It was a pleasure.
Dude, I appreciate it. And let me just give a quick note on the product itself. I've tried other mastic gums. Now this mastic gum is a type of gum where it's not necessarily for the flavor or the taste. It's for actually developing your jaw. And there's another gum out there that uses lower quality ingredients, and I've tried it recently compared to yours. Yours are those big chunky ones, and it just makes a massive difference. So appreciate the quality of the product, dude. Like, excellent stuff.
I appreciate you saying that, man. Yeah. I think quality really is everything. So
yeah,
I appreciate that, brother.
Love it, brother. All right, dude. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.